We're doing an oil change on a 2001 Savage. It's real simple. This is going to be a simple video, but there are a couple little tricks that you might like to learn. What we need is Suzuki oil filter, 5mm Allen to get the filter off and back on. And I've got a couple of 17s because it's tricky to get to and it's very low. So I want to give myself a couple of options. I went and bought the lowest oil pan I could find because this isn't tall like the Yamaha dirt bike I've got here. As soon as my assistant gets here.
Sorry I was late. Just grabbing this from Ace.
Okay. How high does the engine sit off the ground on that bike?
This one, about 10 inches.
Okay. What about the one we're about to work on? How low is that engine?
This one is 8 inches.
Right. Okay. But there's a 17mm drain plug right here. There's the fill plug. This is the cover we removed to access the filter. There's not much more to it than that. I like to let the bike run for 2 minutes to get the oil warm. That gets the crud suspended in the oil and it makes it more, the oil dumps out more easily. And I'll give a couple more tricks. One thing that's gonna help get more of the oil out is if we lift up the rear end of the bike just slightly. And so I bought this. It's like 15 bucks or something at Harbor Freight. And I think it'll come in handy. We'll see. And remember, when you elevate the rear end of the bike, put the bike in gear. You don't want to go chasing it down the driveway. James, the bike is leaning. Could you go find me a good level to put under here, please, sir?
Okay. Here.
That's actually not bad. All right, here's some on-the-job training. It needs a 14 wrench, not a 17, because it depends on what year, and it is really hard to get to. You can't use a socket, you have to use a box, and it's on the left side of the engine, just behind the foot peg, and you're just gonna have to take my word. And it's a pain in the neck. Let's see if I can break it. Okay. Okay, this warm oil is about to come blowing out of that hole. And what I'm going to do is use this time to try to get as much dirt out of there as I can. I'm going to rock the bike back and forth gently. I've got the rear end elevated and I'm in gear. And after about 15 minutes, I'm going to come back and pour about a pint of clean oil in the top of the engine just to pull a little more crud out. And there she blows. Glad I bought that low pan. All right, I'm gonna take 15 minutes. It's been almost 15 minutes now that it's slowed to a drip. And I sat on the bike and gently rocked it back and forth a couple of minutes ago. And now, I'm gonna come up here and remove that and pour a little oil in. I bought 3 quarts of, I use 1040 high mileage conventional oil. This engine takes just a shade over 2 quarts. That's with the filter change. So that leaves quite a bit available. So I'm gonna pour it in right now into the top of the motor. It'll pull a little more dirt out and I'll wait until it stops dripping and then we'll be back. So this is what I call the waste quart coming through the engine. And believe it or not, if you could see it close enough, there's gonna be some dirt coming out. So it's better than nothing. And I only do this about once a riding season, so I really like to get as much dirt out as I can. I put the drain plug back in with a 14 and snugged it down. And now I'm gonna use a 5mm Allen to remove these 3 bolts that hold the cover to the oil filter and get that replaced and cleaned out and put back together before we add the new oil. Whenever you remove these, you want to do it the way you would lug nuts on a wheel. Do a little bit on each of the 3 and then move on. This one was really stuck, so I kept I used a dead blow hammer. Very handy tool. And remember, it is going to weep a little bit, so put some towels down and be careful when you pull the cover off. There's a spring underneath the filter and you don't want to lose that. Okay, when this comes off, we need to keep an eye on how this is oriented because it's not the same on both sides. There's a gasket we're gonna want to hang on to and a spring that we don't want to lose. So here she goes. I can feel the spring pressure. And I think we're loose. Oh, good. Good. So the flatter of the two faces out. That green stamp is going to be facing me. Get oil everywhere. And I'm going to clean this out. So after cleaning up that place where the filter sits, the gasket just stayed there and it looks great and it looks oily. So I'm just going to leave that where it is. The spring is in the cap. It fits in that space right there. So I just have to hold all that mess together while I put the 3 bolts back on. And remember, tighten the bolts a little bit in a circle, the way you would if you're putting the lugs on a wheel. That way the gasket and the filter get even pressure. I'm going to pour in 2 quarts of 1040, and then the sight glass, you see where that is? The sight glass has it's going to be hard to see on the video. It's got a low side and a high side, kind of in the middle. So I hope that that fills it up about halfway, and then I'm going to run the thing for a couple minutes, let it sit and check it again. We're done. So I pulled that little ramp off the back wheel and I'm sitting on the bike so it's nice and level. And now the oil's about halfway. I'm gonna fire it up and we'll check it again and then we're done. Okay, how's it look?
Empty.
Empty?
Yep.
Well, let's sit it for a minute, see if
it's filling up.
Okay.
Yep, it's slowly getting higher. It's like a third of the way now.
What do you think? Should we put a little more in or no?
I don't know how these things work. It's about a little over a third.
Can you see the high and the low marks on the sight glass?
Oh yeah, it's within those.
It's within those?
Yeah.
Then we'll live with that.
Okay. It's growing. It's getting closer to half.
Cool, that'll work.